This is a sculpture called the Raft of Unreason. It was commissioned by the Historic Houses Trust, custodians of Elizabeth Farm, to acknowledge and in a sense interpret the death of John Macarthur in 1834. Joris Evereats is the artist, and he was actually commissioned, the brief being to produce an interpretive work that sat in the garden that referred in some way to John Macarthur's death.
It is the image of the bed that I used, the four-poster bed that John Macarthur was restrained on, and he slept in most of his life with Elizabeth. I sort of made it just a fraction smaller than his real bed, so as to give it that sort of attention of sort of a small person sleeping in it in some way. But the bed itself I made out of steel, just a thin framework was made in steel, like a skeleton. And then I actually used gauze, bandage, dipped in plaster that actually draped over the bed. So making sure that actually the skeleton still came through, sort of like a rib cage coming through sort of a body that's really sort of suffering and thin. I also sort of made references to his mental illness or his hallucinations that he had. So when you're actually looking at the sort of the bandages, the things that I probably would have used for restraint or restraining him on that bed. So I could sort of see him becoming one with that bed. Also made references to the library, because he had quite a library, and he actually slept in his library. So there were lots of books around, and obviously he must have been reading a lot. But then also sort of made references to the actual prison that he was in. I mean, first of all, he was imprisoned in his mind, but there was also the door was locked. He was inside that room with drawn curtains. And I sort of made this lattice work of sticks and twigs around that bed, sort of as a fragile prison.
See it? Yep. Swing it around.
The way it sort of looks there now is sort of really the way I really sort of imagined it to be, sort of within this green, dark sort of background in this English garden, having this sort of white, stark bed sculpture there, which is really in contrast with the background, and then having that sort of very fine, ephemeral network around it of the bush. And that in contrast with John Macarthur's bed just inside, there is sort of really a difference between them. It's sort of like a one process from melancholy to a sort of a more ecstatic sort of state, or going from hell to heaven, you know.